Hey everybody, I'm Matthew Cook and this is episode 97 on the Tactical Dad podcast, and we are talking basic pistol class. I'm here with Tim Owens, my firearms instructor, and we're going to go into basically Tim's pistol class that we just recorded an online course for. Tim, thanks for joining us, mate. Appreciate it as always. Why don't you tell us first like the outline of the course?
Okay.
What is the outline of it?
I can, in my basic outline, my basic pistol class outline, I cover the 4 cardinal rules of firearm safety. I usually break down a firearm and explain all the parts to it to the students. And then I talk about the cycle of operation, how does the gun actually function. Go into load, unload, and malfunction clearance procedures, and then the fundamentals of marksmanship. That's pretty much the basic class. When we get to the range, I tend to show a little more than basic stuff because I like people to be prepared for real world versus just shooting tight shot groups.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just everything you need to know how to properly handle a firearm and be safe with it. So
cool. This, you know, I was at the golf course yesterday, and I was talking to a lady, and I don't know how we got onto the subject, but she just told me, oh yeah, I just did a pistol class, a basic pistol class. I was like, no way. She said, yeah, I've always, I've believed in the Second Amendment, and I know that I need to and should own a firearm, just because of the way the world's going, and whether that's because it's happening more or we're just more aware of it, I'm not sure, but either way, she wanted to be better prepared for the world. And so she did this class, and it was her first one, and she did the class because she just wanted to feel comfortable like around a gun. And as soon as she said that, I was like, I know exactly what that feels like, because just whether you're holding it, not even holding a gun, right, you're just like, it's, you can see it, it's right there in front of you. It's intimidating. I remember being quite nervous, just like, there's a gun right there. That's a real gun.
People understand the damage they can do. I mean, you know, if you see an 10-foot alligator, you're not going to go stick your hand up everybody's mouth. So.
Yeah, so it was interesting that people of all ages and shapes and sizes and beliefs and values, like this is something that, whether you're going to try and be a competitive shooter or whether you just want to protect yourself a bit more, or this is a basic pistol class is like it's almost like, I see it as almost an invaluable life skill, right?
Yeah. Honestly, my philosophy about this is, now I understand there are a lot of people that don't embrace the Second Amendment, and a lot of people are scared of guns. That's fine. I don't care who you are. If you don't believe in owning a firearm, that's your personal decision. But I think it's incumbent upon everyone to know how to safely handle a firearm. You don't have to have it. You can not like guns, but if you're ever in a position where you're around one and you need to take control of it and move it safely or something, you have to know what to do. So, you know, I just think everybody should at least know how to safely handle one. You know, make sure you don't point it at somebody. Make sure you don't put your finger on the trigger. Basic stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
You just changed the perspective of mine. I've never thought of it from that person's perspective, someone that actually doesn't want a gun, doesn't believe in guns, doesn't want to own one, will never own one. Even that person should still learn how to safely do some basics, just in case there's ever a gun there.
You know, so it's just
never thought of it that way.
Good practice, you know. And again, you don't, like you said, you don't have to own one. You don't have to want to own one. But if you had to handle one, you should know how to do it safely.
Yeah.
So
that's powerful. That is powerful. I'm feeling another coffee coming on soon, but that's gonna be a coffee, a Celsius, another coffee. Me jumping out the freaking room, bouncing off the walls. So first, I guess the first section of the course, the 4 cardinal rules of firearm safety.
Yep.
Actually, we've done a podcast on this before, so I'm just going to reference anyone that's listening or watching. Scroll back and find that podcast. We're not going to do that one again because we've already done it. Cycle of operation. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about the cycle of operation.
We've never talked about that. So let's chat about that. Like
Good.
Firing, unlocking, extracting, eject, cocking, feeding, chambering, locking. Although when you went through it, I was like, yep, I know what that is now. I know what that is. I know what that is. It was still very informative for me to hear it in that order.
Okay.
Like it was, I thought it was really good.
Semi-automatic pistols and semi-automatic rifles operate using those 8 steps: firing, unlocking, extracting, ejecting, cocking, feeding, chambering, and locking. And it happens very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. They go through those 8 steps. So what happens when you press the trigger on your firearm? The firing pin strikes the primer of the bullet. The primer sparks, igniting the gunpowder in the casing. When the gunpowder explodes, the force from that explosion forces the bullet out of the casing, down the barrel, and out the muzzle. At the same time, the energy caused by that explosion begins to push the slide to the rear so that it can go through its cycling chamber another round and get ready for another shot. So it fires. When that gas begins to force the slide straight to the rear, as soon as it comes back about 3/16 of an inch, that is unlocked. So that means when it's unlocked, you can't press the trigger, it won't function, okay? So it unlocks, and as the slide continues to the rear, the extractor, which is basically just a little claw-shaped piece of metal, grabs the base of the cartridge and begins to extract it out of the chamber. As the slide continues going further to the rear, the extractor continues to pull the spent casing out of the chamber until it hits the ejector, which then, the ejector is a pointing little piece of metal. It hits the base of the cartridge and causes the spent cartridge to come out the ejection port. Now by this time, the slide has came all the way to the rear. So that would be cocking, okay? As the slide begins to go back to the forward position, the stripper rail begins to pick up or push the next bullet in the magazine out of the magazine, up the feed ramp, into the chamber, and then the slide comes all the way back forward to its locked position. Those are the steps that semi-automatic firearms use, okay? And again, it happens very quick. People should understand the steps in how their firearm works, because if a malfunction happens, you can kind of diagnose after the fact, when you're all done, well, what caused that? If it's not, extracting, if you're having extracting problems, maybe your extractor is going bad. Yeah. If you're continuing to have light strikes on your primer, maybe your firing pin's worn down a little bit. Yeah. But I just think it's important that people understand what steps their firearm operates in.
I 100% couldn't agree more. There's so many parts to a gun, right? That we can't go into all of them. But what you just mentioned, and it sparked my thought process of firing pin. Like, do you have any idea how long one lasts? Or because they do, like, it's metal, it does wear out.
Yeah, it'll wear out.
Because I've heard some people I've seen comments from people, and they've talked about I've had X gun for decades, and still works fine, never changed a thing.
Right.
And they've stated how many rounds they think approximately it's done. But I imagine it can't last forever. Like a golf club, like you got to change. If you play golf, 3 to 5 times a week, your wedges are worn out after 2 seasons.
Right.
Like,
as long as I've been around firearms, I mean, 40 years, I've only seen a couple of firing pins that were worn to the point where they wouldn't consistently strike with enough force to activate the primer.
Yeah.
So it's not a very common occurrence. Now, with spacing and the tolerances for how the firearm is manufactured could be one indication as to why your firing pin's not striking consistently. But over time, but I can only guess how many tens of thousands of strikes a firing pin would have to have on a primer for it to wear down that
Probably
much.
a lot, right? I imagine they make them so well that they don't want that to happen all that often.
Usually, your extractor is going to wear out a little bit sooner. Your extractor primarily is the one main thing that I've seen more extractors wear out or not function properly
than anything else.
Way more than I have firing pins, or basically about any other part on a firearm.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's section 2. Cycle of operation is section 2 of this basic pistol class, this online class. Get off the table. We have, after that, load, unload, and malfunction clearance procedures, types of malfunctions, and then the fundamentals of marksmanship, which is your personal favourite. We can't go through all of them. The podcast is already at 11 minutes, so we're going to wrap it up here. But if anyone listening or watching wants to go and check out the online course, delivered by yours truly, Tim Owens. The link will be in the description. The link will be everywhere. And if you struggle, reach out to me, comment, or email, whatever. Just contact me and I'll send you the link. Thanks for joining me. Hope you got some value out of this.